Throwaway for obvious reasons. So I, male, 32, completely lost it at my in-laws last night, and I can't be the only one who thinks this is messed up, right? Am I the idiot for basically agreeing with my in-laws when they were trashing my career instead of defending myself like my wife expected? Okay, so some background here. My wife Sarah, female 30, and I have been married for about 2 years now. Her parents, let's call them Linda and Bob, have always been involved in our relationship, like really involved. Bob co-signed our mortgage because my credit wasn't quite good enough on its own. Long story, had some issues in my early 20s. And Linda has opinions about literally everything we do. I'm a contractor, mostly residential stuff, some small commercial jobs. It's not like I'm rolling in money, but we're not broke either, you know? Work has been slow this winter, and we had some unexpected expenses. So here's what happened. We go to dinner at Bob and Linda's house every month, which honestly feels like a performance review, but Sarah likes family time, so whatever. Bob always does this thing where he brings up money stuff during dessert. Always. It's like he can't help himself. Last night, he starts in with his usual speech about how contractor work is nice, but doesn't really provide security. Then, and this is where I should have seen it coming, he mentions our exact savings balance, like down to the dollar, because apparently he gets copies of our bank statements since he's on the mortgage. I'm sitting there with my fork halfway to my mouth thinking, are we seriously doing this again? And Sarah gets that look she always gets when her dad starts this crap. Like she's bracing for impact. But here's the thing. I'm so tired of this routine. Every month it's the same dance. Bob criticizes my work, I get defensive, Sarah gets stressed, Linda jumps in with examples of guys from their hometown who are doing well for themselves. Then we all pretend everything's fine and go home. So when Bob starts going on about how real careers have steady paychecks and benefits, instead of defending myself like I always do, I just agreed. I told Bob he was absolutely right. My work is inconsistent, and we're barely scraping by. I said he really knew what he was talking about. The look on his face was priceless, like he'd been expecting me to push back and didn't know what to do when I didn't. Then Linda jumps in, because of course she does, and starts listing off all these guys from their hometown. Jake just bought his second investment property, and Mike got promoted to branch manager at the bank, and how they're all still single. And here's where I think I might have lost my mind a little bit. Instead of sitting there taking it like usual, I started adding to her list. I mentioned Tom's new BMW and said Sarah could do so much better than what I can provide. I even said she should definitely keep her options open. I swear Sarah kicked me so hard under the table I probably have a bruise. Her parents just sat there looking confused because their usual manipulation tactics weren't working. The whole dinner ended early with Bob and Linda making awkward excuses about Linda having a headache and suggesting we should probably head home. We practically ran out of there. As soon as we got home, Sarah went off on me. She wanted to know what that was all about and why I basically gave her parents ammunition to use against our marriage. I tried to explain that I'm just tired of failing to meet their impossible standards every single month while they watch every dollar we spend through those bank statements. Actually, now that I think about it, this whole criticism thing started right after our wedding when Bob first got access to our finances through the mortgage thing. Before that, he was just your typical over-involved future father-in-law. Now he's always bringing up our money problems. The fight with Sarah went on for like 2 hours. She kept saying I was sabotaging our relationship, and I kept saying if she wants someone who can give her more stuff, maybe she should take her parents' advice and find that guy. I know that was harsh, but honestly, I just snapped. I'm tired of being the disappointment at every family gathering while knowing they're monitoring our bank account like we're teenagers. Sarah's been giving me the silent treatment since last night, and I'm starting to wonder if I completely screwed up our marriage by finally fighting back. But also, why am I always expected to be the bigger person when her parents are clearly trying to control us through money? Am I the asshole for agreeing with my in-laws instead of defending our marriage like my wife expected? Because honestly, I don't even know what defending it would look like at this point. Edit 1. Since some people are asking, yes, Bob gets monthly statements because he's technically a co-borrower on our mortgage, not just a co-signer. Our loan officer explained the difference, but basically he has legal access to monitor the account the mortgage payments come from. I know it sounds weird, but it was the only way we could qualify for the house. Edit 2. To everyone saying I should have stood up to them sooner, you're probably right. But it's easy to say that when you don't have to sit through monthly dinners where every conversation turns into a performance review of your life choices. Sometimes agreeing seems easier than fighting the same fight over and over again. Now for the first update, I literally just had the worst conversation of my marriage, and I think Sarah might be getting close to figuring out what's really going on. So remember how I said Sarah was giving me the silent treatment after that disaster dinner at her parents' house? Well, that lasted since that night before she cornered me this morning while I was getting ready for work. She straight up asked if we're broke or something. Like, not even easing into it, just asking if we have money problems because my actions at dinner were really weird. I tried to play it off, told her business goes up and down, winter's always slow for contractors, the usual stuff. But then she started asking specific questions about our emergency fund and where we keep our bank statements, and I just panicked, I guess. I've been handling all our money stuff since we got married, because honestly, Sarah hates dealing with numbers and budgets and all that. Her parents raised her to think financial details are guy business, which, yeah, I know how that sounds, but it worked out fine until now. So she never really checks our accounts or asks detailed questions about where money goes. But apparently my weird deflecting this morning made her even more suspicious because around lunchtime she texted me asking why I was being so vague about stuff I normally have organized down to the penny. Then tonight happened, and I think I'm totally screwed. Sarah was already home when I got back from my job site, and she looked like she'd been thinking about something all day. She told me she logged into our bank account for the first time in like 6 months. 6 months. I didn't even realize it had been that long. But yeah, she never checks because I always tell her everything's fine. Well, guess what she found? She saw the transfers from our personal checking account, the one Bob doesn't have access to through the mortgage paperwork. All of them. Going back 18 months. $400 every month to an account with Bob's name on it. Looking at the dates, this started about 6 months after we got married. I swear my heart just stopped. Like actually stopped beating for a second because this is exactly what I've been terrified would happen since this whole thing started. Sarah just stood there with her phone, showing me the screenshots and asked, "What is this?" And I couldn't even form words. I just sat there like an idiot trying to figure out how to explain without making everything worse. When I didn't answer fast enough, she said she'd already called her dad about it. Called him. At work. During lunch. Apparently Bob confirmed there's some kind of loan arrangement, but wouldn't give her any details. Just told her not to worry about it and that she should trust me to handle business stuff. Which obviously made her even more pissed, because now both her husband and her father are keeping money secrets from her. Now I'm wondering if Bob's monthly criticism sessions were actually about making sure we could keep up with these payments. The conversation we just had was bad. Really bad. Sarah kept asking what the loan was for and why I never told her about it and why her dad wouldn't explain it either. And I just kept saying it was complicated and that I didn't want her to stress about business problems. But here's the thing. I can't tell her the truth. Not just because of what happened at the venue, which would be bad enough, but because if Bob finds out I told her everything, he'll make sure every contractor in this town knows what happened. My reputation would be completely destroyed. So I'm stuck lying to my wife about why we're paying her father $400 every month while she's getting more suspicious by the hour. Sarah ended the conversation by saying she's not dropping this and that she wants all three of us to sit down this weekend and figure out what's really going on. She said she's tired of being treated like she can't handle guy business and that keeping secrets about money is not normal in a marriage. I agreed, because what else could I do? But honestly, I'm terrified about what Bob's going to say when she forces this meeting. He's going to be pissed that she found out about the transfers, and even more pissed that I couldn't keep her from asking questions. The worst part is Sarah's right. Keeping money secrets isn't normal, and I hate that I've been doing it. But Bob made it really clear from the beginning that this stays between us, and that Sarah doesn't need to be burdened with details about my screw-ups. Now, I don't know if I should tell her everything before this weekend meeting, or if that'll just make things worse. Bob specifically said he doesn't want her stressed about stuff that's already handled. But obviously hiding $400 monthly payments isn't exactly handled. I feel like no matter what I do now, I'm gonna lose. Either I keep lying to Sarah and she figures out I'm hiding more stuff, or I tell her the truth and Bob destroys my business reputation out of spite. Has anyone else been in a situation where telling the truth about money would actually make everything worse? Because I seriously don't know what to do here. Oh, and Sarah's best friend apparently mentioned that she's noticed me being weird about money lately, paying for everything in cash and seeming stressed about bills. So apparently I'm not as good at hiding this as I thought I was. Edit 1. Since people are asking, no, the original loan paperwork doesn't exist because Bob said it was just a handshake deal between men, which I know sounds sketchy, but honestly I was so grateful for the help at the time I didn't push for formal documents. 2. Yes, I realize now that $400 a month for 18 months is way more than the original amount I needed, but Bob said the interest rate reflects the risk of an informal loan, and honestly, I was just relieved to have the problem solved. Now for the second update. Well, you guys were right about this not ending well. Sarah got her family meeting and everything went to absolute shit. So after my last post where Sarah found those bank transfers, she basically went into full detective mode. Like, I've never seen her this determined about anything. She called both me and her dad separately and said we're all sitting down this Saturday to clear the air about whatever's going on. Bob immediately tried to get out of it. First, he said he was swamped with work stuff. He works at the bank downtown and acts like he's running the Federal Reserve or something. When Sarah wouldn't back down, he tried to push it to sometime next month when things calm down. I'm sitting there during this phone call, just watching Sarah get more pissed by the minute. She straight up told her dad that if he didn't agree to Saturday afternoon, she was going to drive over there and camp out in their driveway until someone explained what the hell was going on. That got him to agree real quick. Honestly, part of me was hoping Bob would figure out some way to avoid this whole thing, because I knew it was going to be a disaster. But also, I'm so tired of lying to Sarah about money stuff, even if telling the truth means everything blows up. So Saturday comes, and we're all sitting in Bob and Linda's living room. Linda made coffee nobody wanted and kept hovering around acting nervous. Bob starts with his usual routine about how the payments are just a regular family loan and how these things happen between family members. Real casual, like we're talking about borrowing a lawnmower or something. But Sarah's not buying it anymore. She starts asking for paperwork, loan agreements, actual documentation. And Bob just keeps saying it was a handshake deal between men, which sounds worse every time he says it. The whole time Bob and I keep looking at each other, like we're having this silent conversation about how much to say. I can tell Sarah notices because she calls us out on it. She wanted to know why we kept looking at each other like we were scared she'd find something out. That's when I knew we were totally screwed. Sarah stands up and tells us she's leaving unless someone explains what actually happened. Just straight up done with the runaround. Bob starts with, "It's not that big a deal," and I swear I almost told him to shut up right there. Actually, no, I did tell him to shut up, which obviously made Sarah even more suspicious because now I'm clearly trying to stop her dad from talking. Then Bob just caved. I guess he figured better to control the story than let me tell it. Turns out 6 months before our wedding, I was at the venue doing some electrical work. The caterer needed extra outlets in the basement for their equipment setup. Should have been simple, but I accidentally hit a main water pipe while drilling through the wall. The flooding was bad, really bad. It messed up the hardwood floors in the main hall and destroyed some vintage wallpaper that was apparently impossible to replace. The venue needed $8,000 right away to fix everything before our wedding date. Bob paid it. No insurance, no canceling the wedding. Just handled it so Sarah wouldn't have to deal with the stress before her special day. Bob explained that he didn't start charging me right away. He said he wanted to give us time to get settled after the wedding before beginning the repayment arrangement. Sarah just sat there staring at us while Bob explained this. I could see her trying to process why we'd keep something that big from her for almost 2 years. But here's where it gets really messed up. Sarah wants to know why I'm still making payments 18 months later if the original problem was handled. Like the math doesn't add up at all. That's when Bob admits the amount has gone up. Twice. I knew about the increases, of course. I'd been making the payments, but I was hoping Bob would stick to the original $400 amount when explaining things to Sarah. No such luck. Bob admitted that while most of the payments Sarah saw were $400, there had been some increases she might not have noticed in her quick review of the statements. Started at $400, went to $500 after I had an attitude problem at Christmas dinner last year. Apparently disagreeing with Bob about my work schedule counts as attitude. then up to $600 after I embarrassed them at Sarah's cousin's graduation party. I'm watching Sarah realize that this isn't a loan anymore. It's like a monthly fine for any time I don't act exactly how her parents want me to. And yeah, I finally admitted why I've been going along with it. Bob made it clear from the beginning that if word got out about the venue thing, every contractor in town would know I screwed up a major job. In a place this size, that kind of reputation damage would basically end my business. So I've been paying her parents $600 every month to keep quiet about a mistake I made trying to make our wedding perfect. Sarah didn't say anything for like 10 minutes. Just sat there, looking between me and her dad like we were strangers. Finally, she asked how many other incidents they've been charging me for. Bob tried to play it off, but Linda, who'd been quiet this whole time, mentioned they have a fucking list, of every time I've disagreed with them or supported Sarah against their wishes, with dollar amounts next to each thing. The room went completely silent after that. Even Linda looked like she realized she'd said too much. Sarah left, just grabbed her purse and walked out without saying anything to any of us. I tried to follow her, but she told me not to come home until I figured out whether I'm married to her or her parents. Bob spent the next hour trying to convince me this was Sarah being emotional and that she'd calm down once she realized we were just trying to protect her, like we're the good guys in this situation. I've been staying at my buddy Mike's place since Saturday night. Sarah's been texting, but only about practical stuff like bills and who's picking up the dry cleaning. Nothing about us or what happens next. I know I screwed up by lying about the payments, but honestly, I don't know what choice I had. Bob wasn't wrong about the reputation thing. This town runs on word of mouth, and people have long memories about contractors who mess up jobs. But keeping it from Sarah for almost 2 years was obviously wrong too. And the fact that her parents have been tracking my actions like I'm a kid who needs constant correction, that's not normal, right? I just don't know if there's a way back from this. Sarah's parents basically turned me into their financial hostage, and I went along with it instead of fighting back. Now my wife doesn't trust me, and I'm out $8,400 with nothing to show for it except a marriage that might be over. Has anyone else dealt with in-laws who use money to control your relationship? Because I honestly don't know if this is fixable or if I should just accept that Bob won and start over somewhere else. Edit 1. To everyone asking why I didn't just tell Sarah from the beginning, Bob specifically said the whole point was not to stress her out before the wedding, and that real men handle their mistakes without dragging their wives into it. I know how that sounds now, but at the time, it felt like the right thing to do. Also, yes, I realize $600 a month is insane, but by the time it got that high, I was already in too deep to fight back without losing everything.